Hey everyone, I'm Nick.
I'm Vic.
And we are NV Board Gaming. Today we are going to talk about Chimera Station. Vic's going to go over this one. It's a 2 to 4 player game by Tasty Minstrel Games. The designer is Mark Major, and Vic is going to take it away.
Welcome to the space station. This is Chimera Station. We are set up for a 2-player game. To start the game, we've set up here with the B side of the board. You'll notice that you have a choice between the B side, which is a little bit more advanced, and the A side. If you're just starting playing the game, I suggest that you play your first game, and the game book, the rule book suggests that as well, that you start with the A side and then progress over to the B side. The B side has a special ability for your worker, and all the player boards tell you at the bottom what each genetic component will do. I'll get into that in just a moment, but we are set up on the B side because we're a bit more advanced here. We determined a starting player. That person gets this little lanyard looking thing that you can put on a string and wear if you so desired, but you get that little token, and you'll follow the instructions at the bottom of your board about what you start with. Everybody pretty much starts on the advanced side with a guy with a component of their color attached to it. There's no faction that doesn't. And the object of this game, put simply, is to score the most amount of victory points. So that is what you are aiming to do in this game. And how do you go about doing that? You're putting out your workers. It's a worker placement game. So to start the game, you get 3 choices of starting resources here, and that'll determine what you start with. Burgers are how you feed your people. It's food. And the coins are obviously the currency of the game and how you pay. And you'll notice that these ones actually give you a component right away. These are worth points at the end, but they also give your players a special ability, which I will quickly go through what they do. So, using this player sheet for reference, a lobster claw, this little guy here, the red one, that allows you to displace opponent's workers. If you get 2 of them, you can displace any opponent, and you don't have to worry about how many components they have, because each worker can have up to 2 unless they have a special ability which can come out in a perk card. But in any case, the red lobster claw, if you have one, it just displaces somebody who has 1 or less components. 2, you can displace anyone's. If you have the green little leafy component here, the genetic component, you eat yourself. You don't need to feed that player because they just take a piece of themselves and eat it. If they have 2 green parts, they actually produce burgers in the feeding phase. And just pay attention to your board because the eco-friendlies, I believe, they produce 3 burgers instead of 2. But the general one is 2 burgers. And then you got these yellow tentacles here. The yellow tentacles, they grab things with suction cups, and they would give you a extra coin or an extra burger if you go to a spot that gives you those. And if you have 2 of them, you actually get to grab an extra component. This little symbol here is the symbol for a genetic component. If you are acquiring a brain component, you are all about scoring points. That's what that ability gives you. The simple 1 component one lets you score VPs, these little stars is the symbol for VP, equal to the point value of the module you place on. So for an example, if you were to place your worker on this one here, you would score the 1 victory point immediately and add that to your score. There's a little score track around the board. If you had the double brain, the double purple, you would actually get to count opponents' your own spaces where you command when you do the command hub function, which I will show you in a moment when I get into the placement phase, but that is something you do to score points. And traditionally, without a brain, you would only score where your opponents are, but if you have a brain part, you get to score where you are too, which is pretty good. So the Brainiac player will actually start with a perk card as per the science, the research level that they have at number 1. They actually start at level 2 because they're so clever. And they have a choice of these 3 that are dealt out at random at the beginning of the game. This one here gives you end of game points, but some of them give you immediate things when you acquire them. Like you'll see when acquired, or it'll say different times that you get these points, or they might be a function of something, like how many empty spots in a reactor, or so on and so forth. They'll let you explore all those different things. But most of them are end of game scoring. And so you could pick this. This is an ongoing ability that you'll score 2 VP when your workers go to the workers lounge. There's a spot right there. This is a special perk module. Anything with a hexagon shape is a spot that you and only you can go to. And it gives you a special ability. So this one here, you get 2 coins and a burger when you go there, and at the end of the game it's worth 9 VP. So we'll just have that person simply take that one. And these don't replenish. You have to wait till round 3, where it tells you on the board very clearly, deal 3 new perks, advance your research, and so on and so forth. So if these get taken up for whatever reason, bought up, you have to wait till the round 3 for more to come out, unless otherwise instructed. So to start the game, once we've determined our starting resources, one thing you'll want to note is that this card also lets you do a one-time flush of the reactor, which is one of your bonus actions that you can do on top of your regular turn. And that allows you to, once per game, discard any number of modules from the reactor down here. This is where the supplies are, extra modules that you can build, and refill the reactor from the supply of here, the stack. So it might be something if you see someone eyeing a building you don't want them to have, or you don't like the choices, you can wipe it out. And why do you care about the reactor anyways? Well, as a spot that you can go to, you'll notice that as the buildings are taken, if you go to this constructor spot right here, this red one here, there are little bonuses printed on the game board. And as they are revealed, you are able to obtain these anytime you do the refill reactor spot. So anytime that you go and to the boiler room and you do this action, or you hit this one here, you actually get to score and obtain any of these bonuses. And if you send your tentacle worker out there, you'll actually gain an additional item, because it grabs extra burgers and coins. So something to keep in mind, if you sent your tentacle component guy out to the boiler room spot, they'll be able to take advantage of their ability and get extra stuff for you. So yeah, the whole purpose of the game is you're actually wanting to build out the space station and put more spots out for you and your opponents to go to. And you'll score points for building them. When you build something, you go to this build spot and you you immediately pay the cost on the left, the coin symbol, and you get a victory point on the side where the star is. You'll score that immediately. If you sent out your double brain guy, you would get to, or any brain guy, you'd score those points as well anytime you go to that spot. But in any case, these are placed out and you immediately get the build bonus for where you put it. So if I put it on top of this, I would actually gain a leafy component right away. And the worker that I put out here in the constructor would go there and do that action immediately. So something to note is that most of these places will allow you to leave the spot and activate the spot you just built. But there are some that are monuments, and they just give you victory points straight up, and you stay on that spot. You don't move to the monument. So one little quirk that you'll notice when you go through all the different buildings that there are. So that would be one action. Well, pretend this guy went out there, and you're taking turns putting workers out. There's a worker lounge here. This is where you end up if you get bumped. You could also go there if you wanted. It only gives you 1 burger or 1 coin, so there's definitely better spots out there. If you were ever bumped, which is what those, as I mentioned in the beginning, those little lobster claw components do, you get sent over there. You don't get back into your supply. And there is different spots. You can check out what they do on the right side here. They mainly give you things, or you can buy components for different prices. And as the board fills up, there's going to be more places for you to go, because players will be taking things out of this reactor and putting them in. And as I mentioned with the perk cards, once this is depleted, you need to do the refill reactor function in order to bring out more buildings. And they get just discarded over here, anything that was left over if you flush it. So that's the worker placement phase. And one thing that I mentioned that I would say before is the command hub slot. There's one of them until turn 3. Then the second one becomes available, but for first 3 rounds, there's only one spot open over here. And that one allows you, anytime you see command and a little red hexagon, they're saying that you score points for the spaces that your opponents are on. So the victory points, you add them up, and then you get to score those points. If you put a brain guy down and they have 2 brains, you actually get to score what you have as well. So that's what command means, and the slot A gives you the first player marker. Players don't take turns. You actually have to acquire this through going to slot A. So that's the placement phase. If you ever placed your worker on one of these 3 worker splicing lab spots, there's only 3 of them, you actually get to do something in addition, in between the worker placement phase and the feeding phase, and that is you get to augment any of the players you put out here. So if I had this guy out, I would get to add my leafy green component that I gained, and you just snap them on like so, and now voila, he's got a green thing. He can eat himself now in the feeding phase. Very exciting. So then you go on to the feeding phase. Everybody takes their workers back and you feed them. So you would look and see, okay, this guy doesn't have to be fed, but these other 3 people, they're gonna need some burgers. If you could ever not afford, you didn't have enough burgers, you have to start by removing components to pay for whatever you're missing in terms of burgers. And if you still don't, you have to lose points for the feeding that you can't do. You lose 2 points for every burger you couldn't feed your worker. So that's the feeding phase, and then you go ahead and move on to the next round. And then you'll notice on the board, it's printed here, round 3. You actually deal out 3 new perk cards, and they come out in addition to what's already there. Nothing goes away. And you get to advance your research on your board, as I mentioned. There are these spaces here. You would just move this little token up, and that means that's a symbol for a perk card. You would immediately take that perk bonus. Everybody gets to move up their research in that regard. And then the buildings are worth 2, and this becomes available in round 3, this slot B. And that means when buildings are worth 2, you get double the victory points that's printed there. And in round 5, when you reach round 5, you deal again 3 new perks, advance the research again, and buildings are worth 3 times the amount of points. So that's sort of how the rounds change up a bit in round 3 and 5. And you have 5 rounds in total to score the most victory points. At the end of the game, at the end of the final round, players are going to gain bonus points for every 3 coins. This is all printed on your player sheet, which is really great. If you know me, I love references like that. So you'll get 1 victory point for every 3 coins, 1 victory point for every 2 burgers you had, 2 victory points for every component or attached genetic component. So even if you stuck it on, you spliced it on a worker, you'll still score for that. And you get anything from your perk cards that you've collected. So this one would give me 9 points at the end. And the person with the most points wins the game. That is how you play Chimera Station.
Hey everyone, welcome back for our review of Chimera Station. This game is a worker placement game with a unique twist. It has every worker seems to be different because you're building out different modules onto that worker that gives them different things, lets them do different things when they go to different places. So that is a really neat concept. It is also neat that when you build these buildings out to the board, when you build those modules out, you don't get points for when people go to that or anything. It's there for both players to take. That is unique in that most games where you actually contribute to the main board, you usually get incentivized for people to go there. In most worker placement games where that is a thing. This one's not. You build it, you get the points for building it, but from then on, you don't show ownership of it, nothing. Yeah. It's just there for everybody. So it's different, but I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I think it's different, and it actually might be a good thing. I do kind of like that. I like that, well, that's a cool spot. You get the points for it, but I could benefit from that too, just as much as you can. Yeah, and you see it out there, and a lot of times when there's a lot of modules out there, you kind of forget that these really good ones are out there. You might miss them. You're like, oh man, I really forgot about that. I can boost my research just going there. Something like that. And so a lot of interesting spots in this game. I like worker placement games in general, so anytime I see a different take on worker placement, that's a plus for me. I like to explore those type of games. This one I'm going to score an 8-2. I am not sure about balancing issues. There might be some balancing issues here and there, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that the abilities are okay, and there's no balancing issues, but I am weary of it. Like, I do feel that some of them might be overpowered compared to others, and it seems to scale pretty well. We've tried it at 2 several times. We tried it at 4 once, and it seemed to scale very well, and I have no issues there. The game ramps up. All of a sudden, you're scoring. If you like point salad games, this game becomes a point salad. Toward the end of the game, you're scoring a lot of points for doing things, especially in round 5 when buildings are tripled, and you're doing other things. You're getting a lot of points, and you have the people with brains at the end, and you can trigger off so many different points that way. And by the end, I think the last time we played, I had over 200 points, and it didn't feel like at the beginning it didn't feel like we'd even touch 100, but it just ramps up so much. And
it's getting like 3, 2 on the first buildings.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't know, it just, the triple buildings just add up. And then you start getting other things where as many workers as you have out there, maybe get double, there's different spots that trigger off all these VPs toward the end of the game. And there's so many different options, and by the end of the game, there's so many options for where you can go. Mm-hmm. So, and different, typical point salad. It just adds up, and it's going to get more and more the longer you play this game. It's 5 rounds, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. So 8.2 for me.
Yeah, I really enjoy this game. I like how cute it is. I like how colorful. I like the little pieces. I like that you can, even though it's a little dangerous, you can hurt yourself when you're snapping them. If you're not careful, you can do a little pinch on your finger, so just watch that. But it's fun to stick the components together onto your aliens, changing them up. The fact that you can go to that splicing place and then reassign them takes some forethought, because you have to think about what you'll ultimately do with the guy that you've just augmented or changed or spliced. And I like that you can, destroy part of your worker and, get rid of a piece of them and get some points or get some research for detaching them. They offer so much versatility with the components that it's a lot of fun. I think that the components are high quality too. I think they're not heavy duty. They're not, really heavy pieces, but it's really well done, well made, and they all look really cute. Like the little lobster claws, the little tentacles, the brains. Brains, not so cute. Little gross, but
but they're purple.
They're purple, so my favorite color. And I like how simple the game. It's really not that difficult. One thing that you will get hung up on is looking to the rule book for the glossary of what each building does. You're not going to know maybe right off the bat, but the symbology is pretty good. I would say it's really written out pretty well. There's nothing that's too lacking. There might be a couple things that you should make sure you read the rule book. You're not just going to rely on the board to tell you how the game goes. Yeah. But things are pretty constant throughout. So you're not going to be hit with weird surprises. And I think that families could enjoy this game. I don't think it could be a little heavier, but it's pretty light. I think that, I don't know, what age would you say could handle this? The box says 14 plus.
Yeah, I was going to say the box says 14 plus. I put it right in range. First thing that came in my head was 13. But yeah.
My score for this one is a 7.9. The game, I guess we play so many heavy games that I'm used to something with more weight to it. But the game itself is fun. It's enjoyable, and the turns are quick. Nobody really sits there for a long time debating what to do. You get through things pretty fast, and you get a good amount of workers. And as you progress on the research, I really like that different factions get different stuff. So you can play with different ones, A side, B side. There's a lot of replayability to try out different ones. There's 4 factions in total. They have an A and B side. It's just interesting to try out. You don't necessarily go with your favorite color. You might want to, see what the the little yellow guys do. And you can always get your opponent, you don't have to worry that on the B side, they get a special ability. But you can add the lobster claws. You can add the green parts to your aliens. Your workers can be changed as you see fit. So it's not, you're not very limited in this game. It feels like there's a lot of options. And so I really enjoy it. I think the game is super cute. It's very unique. It's very memorable, I think. Yeah. That when people play it, they'll remember playing it with you.
Yeah, and it does draw from other games, but I can't say that it's just like this game, but it does draw from other games. You can tell. Lords of Waterdeep is the first one that popped in mind.
Really?
Where you're building out buildings that out here that you can go to. when you are putting in the splicing lab, you could reuse those just like you
that's
did in
true,
Waterdeep. I felt like it drew on a few elements from different games. But it's a zone beast, and it's a pretty positive. I can't believe I scored it higher than her because she asked to play this quite a bit.
I ask every time. I go, Chimera Station.
I'm like, and then I scored higher than her. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe.
When I saw his score, I wanted to change mine. But that's what I put. That's what my little brain came up with. Just because I don't know. I thought about it, and after playing it a couple times, the past couple days we've been playing it, and I did the teach for it, and relative to other games, maybe I just had a nostalgia for it, and I missed it a bit because it'd been on our shelf for a couple years. I would say we haven't played it, so. It's a game that I would go back to, and despite my 7.9 and his 8.2 will average it to about an 8. Buy it, get the game. It's fun. Thank you so much for joining us for this review. We hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.